I want to thank you guys so much for all the kind words and support you've shown me and my family over the last few days. From the bottom of our hearts, we really appreciate it. Had a big ceremony for Mom yesterday. More than 200 people showed up. She is well loved and we will miss her a lot. But today, we are back on Warhammer 2 with Mixu's Lord mods, Elspeth von Draken, the Dark Lady of Nuln, and Ghorros Warhoof, Sire of 1,000 Young. The Isle of the Crimson Skull, the Jewel of the Empire, and the Beastmen will continue their bitter rivalry as Theodore Bruckner, the Titan Headsman, and State Troops of the South match up against the Sons of Ghorros and the Butchers of Kalkengard. Big angry cowmen should have plenty of time to get their blood greed fix in here and regenerate their health to boot. So, this is Ghorros Warhoof, and to be completely honest, he is not an incredibly impressive lord in combat. He is not going to go toe-to-toe with vampire lords and come out on top, but he does have some pretty cool abilities, and he's pretty cheap as well. Father of Beasts gives him an awesome map-wide buff when he's close to death. He's immune to Vigor, gives missile resist and AP passively to nearby friends, has high physical and magic resist from the Skull of the Unicorn Lord, and Man Smasher turns him from a kind of unimpressive duelist into a lord who can blend infantry pretty well. Sundering Armor is always going to be a very solid trait to have, and it completely changes his damage output. Now Ghorros can also field Gore Hoofs as well. Centigor Hero with 22 bonus versus large, some pretty nice AP values as well. Run these two alongside the Sons of Ghorros in a vanguard position, and you've got a pretty potent strike force that can hit an opponent where they least expect it and melt back into the forest. We're going to see if we can make that work, and the only way it will work is if the infantry attack is timed well. One thing that kind of gets overlooked sometimes when people go for vanguard ambushes is that they don't always do stuff to actually focus their opponent's attention, which means if we're coming in from behind with an RKO, the front needs to be putting a lot of pressure at the same time, otherwise your opponent's just going to look at the minimap and the jig will be up immediately. Butchers of Kalkengard and that Brave Shaman of the Lord of Shadows, going to try to do some work here. And for Nuln and the Empire, it's the Graveyard Rose riding high on the Winds of Magic. One of the strongest lords in Mixu's compilations, hands down. I think she's pretty brutal, honestly, and here's why. She's a Deathcaster on a Great Carmine Dragon who's effectively undead, which means she crumbles instead of routing, and that's objectively better to crumble than rout, especially when you have high base leadership, near 90, which is what she has. That Pale Scythe for armor sundering and AP buffs, really nice. Darkwalker gives her 75% physical resist on a 60-second cooldown, which is absolutely filthy. And Death's Timekeeper gives her Heart of Avalorn, essentially, so she gets a life-saving burst of HP as well. Pretty strong. But Theodore Bruckner is here as well, riding his famous Demigryph Reaper, wielding the sword Liar's Bane as the personal bodyguard and executioner of Countess Emanuel von Leibowitz, and the Hand of Judgment, making him unbreakable, with the Baleflame Amulet giving him a black gem that explodes and kills enemies when he drops too low in HP. So on Overwatch, there's a terror-causing Carmine Dragon with one of the best lords of magic, well, in a very versatile faction in the Empire. It's definitely going to be a tough nut to crack. So what we're going to try to do here is spread the field and make sure that all those Vanguard wings get in on high-value targets early and eliminate them from the field. Break their army down into chunks, separate them. That's what the Beastmen are good at. Now, they are very squishy, and one thing you'll notice in most Beastmen replays is that their replays are usually pretty fast. Vanguard, Glass Cannon, hyper-mobile factions tend to play like that. They either get in your face immediately and overwhelm you, feasting on terror routes as the enemy line breaks, or they get stuffed immediately and lose all their momentum. And Beastmen without momentum are not Beastmen. They're just annoying farm animals mewling in the wind. So Ghorros and his sons had a lot of ground to cover from the back of the map. We needed to focus Zach's attention on the front so he would not notice the ambush, and it worked out perfectly. Infantry got aggressive. He focused on that, got a clean charge off into the backs of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, and they will crumble under the weight of Ghorros and his homies, and immediately disengage, pull away, pull those knights away from the main infantry line, and let the infantry attack in the front. That is a textbook Beastmen play, and certainly not a bad way to start this battle. So, the Ungor Spearmen and the Bestigors looking to get in there, and Carmine Dragon up top, Elspeth von Draken in tow, and she is looking to munch on that poor Brave Shaman of the Lore of Shadows. Thankfully, we do have the Butchers of Kalkengard and some Gors nearby, and we're going to drop an Enfeebling Foe on her. Looking back on it, probably should have been a Melkoth Mystify and Miasma to slow her down there. Butchers of Kalkengard might have been able to catch up and do some serious damage to the graveyard roads. It would have been pretty nice. Knights of the Blazing Sun already positioned very well to get a rear charge into the back of the Ghorros, who will melt away under that stampede if they get a clean charge off. The Ghorros Man Rippers are right there, and they are going to get stuffed and not move. They're just going to completely block their charge, and he's going to miss out on all the DPS he could have got there. But a nice charge into the Centigors, who honestly, looking back on this now, probably getting too aggressive. They're fighting toe-to-toe with Knights of the Blazing Sun, who are far superior in terms of melee prowess. And honestly, I feel like I probably smelled a little bit too much blood in the water there. I got that awesome ambush off to start with, and just said, okay, let's kill some more cavalry. But really, Centigors should not be going toe-to-toe with the higher tier Empire Knights, Knights of the Blazing Sun especially, and so that will certainly hurt. The Tattersouls are going to get their salad tossed by the Butchers of Kalkengard. A beautiful rear charge here. Their terror will go to waste here because the Flagellants aren't unbreakable, but certainly not a bad unit to murder, and they'll die pretty quick. I mean, they have a big HP pool, but very low armor, and the Minotaurs are just going to carve them to bloody pieces. And so once they do that, we can push through and start really inundating those back lines and shutting down those Sterling's Revenge, and maybe the Pistoliers as well. But the cavalry, pretty beaten up, and in fact, Theodore Bruckner is now chasing off my Warhoof, murdered him in close quarters combat because he has low armor, and Theodore Bruckner on that Demigryph is certainly going to be a big issue, as is the Dark Lady herself, Elspeth von Draken, on that Carmine Dragon, causing terror everywhere she lands, beating up on some Gors at the moment. But the Centigors with throwing axes are nearby, chunking some AP into her, and this Warhoof going to try to 1v1, but against Reaper, that gigantic Demigryph has absolutely no chance, and he will rout from the map. Didn't get a lot of value generated from him, which is unfortunate. Butchers of Kalkengard are free now, though, and the Empire front line is decimated. The Gors are getting in on the targets I really want them to get into. They're getting on top of that Sterling's Revenge and the range units in the back, but big mistake from me. Bray Shaman of the Lord of Shadows on that Razor Gore Chariot, completely surrounded by the Knights of the Blazing Sun, and those Flaming Lances will stab over and over into its flank. Pretty soon, it will drop. Carmine Dragon Breath looking a lot like a Terrorgeist Shriek, actually. Gonna miss the Butchers of Kalkengard completely, because they were on the run, and now they are into the cookie jar, and it's about to feel oh so good. Blood Greed just going to ravage these Empire State troops, run right through them, and cause some more of that cavalry to start breaking from the field. That terror going to be so important here. Sons of Ghorros and Ghorros Warhoof himself are both still alive, still hypermobile, moving around, but the Sons of Ghorros did take a lot of damage in those cavalry fights, and after that first really good engagement, have not really made it into the targets I want them to hit. At this point, probably going to want to use them as a stop block for Elspeth von Draken and that Carmine Dragon whenever she lands. But in the meanwhile, they could probably go for the Sterling's Revenge, Free Company, and other range units and get some of them off the field. A nice charge there. Ghorros going to carve the head, cleave the heads from the shoulders of those mercenary Free Company too, and that's going to feel pretty good. But Zach is doing a very good job of layering that defense. His Pistoliers are still online, still have plenty of ammunition. They are quite good in this matchup, because most of the Beastmen line is very low in terms of HP. Theodore Bruckner is in the center of it as well. Butchers of Kalkengard and all the most important units on the field are closing in for this very important part of the battle. Nice breath attack, gonna carve through and murder 2 or 3 of those Butchers of Kalkengard, and a terror rout coming in here. Doom and Darkness dropping in, lowering leadership in an AoE by 16 on top of that beautiful rear charge. So well done. And Elspeth von Draken, the Angel of Death, will spread her wings. Shaiish will howl, and the Beastmen will know the true meaning of fear. Gorgeously done. Attack that flank from 3 sides simultaneously, stacked a huge leadership debuff with the dragon landing at the exact same time, and there are very few factions in the game who would not have wavered under that kind of well-timed assault, and it's going to completely change the complexion of that battle with Theodore Bruckner still alive, charging in with Reaper the Demigryph into the flank of those Ghorros Man Rippers, and the Beastmen, who were feeling pretty good up to that point, just shattered under the weight of that assault. But some of that stuff is going to come back into the fight now. Battle's not over yet. Ghorros Man Rippers and the Halberds holding on for now. Breath attack might be coming in, but that's actually a Spirit Leech. We'll be doing some good damage to them, and they're getting tossed around like ragdolls. probably going to be pretty hard at this point for the Beastmen to come back. Knights of the Blazing Sun are still online. And at this point, the Empire has the mobility advantage, which is something the Beastmen never really want to concede to the enemy. They really rely on that speed, on that hyper precision, on their ability to hit pretty much any part of a battle line they want. And once they lose all that mobility on the field, it becomes a lot harder for the Beastmen to win because it's one of their biggest strengths. Ghorros Warhoof is still alive, still causing some havoc in the backline, but really kind of irrelevant at this point. Butchers of Calcan Guard are going to get their gorgeous somersault animations off into the middle of the Free Company, but that will pretty much end it as a competition. And Nold and Wissenland and the Dark Lady will take the field. Now, Zach does concede here. Ignore it. The Empire clearly won that battle. Clearly. They had quite a lot of troops left on the field. I can't remember if he had to go do something or what the reasoning behind that was. But we have Knights of the Blazing Sun, who did exceptionally well that game, despite the one getting rear charged at the beginning. The other two really carried a lot of that. Elspeth is just a terror for really lots of factions to deal with. But Beastmen certainly do not like dealing with that when the Empire has all these other tools. And then there's a Carmine Dragon with the Lore of Dark Magic, or Death Magic rather, added to the mix. Shaiish is a very good one. Doom and Darkness was a brilliant spell to take. Minus 16 leadership in an AoE completely flattened that flank, and she got stuck in there with 75% physical resist on a 60-second cooldown. The Dark Lady is very, very strong. She is one of those Empire Lords I absolutely would love to see. Don't know if she ever got added as free LC or DLC for the Empire, if she would be quite as strong as she is in Mixu's Lord mods, but she's really fun to use. If you've not played a campaign with her, go try it out. But for the Beastmen and Ghorros, I felt like that cavalry ambush worked out very well, but I think I got a little bit overzealous after the opening stages of that battle and said, okay, well, I've got two lords who have, lord and a hero rather, that have good AP, they're good at killing cav, and I've got these Sons of Ghorros that run around and just run over all the cavalry. But really, Knights of the Blazing Sun are a little bit too tanky and too good in melee to take on in a head-on engagement. Pulling them away from the enemy would have been better. Wait to strike later, and it probably would have worked out better for the Beastmen. GG, see you next time.